Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Leo. How's it going?
I'm great, my friend. I'm great. The sun is shining. We're back in London. We're at the London house because obviously we've got all the fun of the shorties and the short stay summit this week. So we're here. We traveled up over the weekend with the kids. I'm back in my old haunt, doing my old runs, running around my old neighborhood, catching up with friends. It's brilliant.
That's amazing. I think it's almost so special when you can come back to a place that you've lived for years and years and years, and you get that opportunity to kind of reconnect with everyone, and it feels different. I'm sure.
Yeah,
It
does.
must be really nice.
You remember what you liked about it. You remember what you really liked about it. So yeah, we're good. We were away, weren't we? We spoke last when I was in Germany. We were in after Germany, we went to Paris for the weekend. Had a fabulous time. I'll say this though, the Marais was incredibly busy. We got there for I think probably the first hot day of the year, and it felt like every single person had decided to go shopping that day in the Marais. But yeah, it was phenomenal, and the kids really loved it. Sadie really loved it. We had the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, all that stuff. She was super excited. So yeah, it's been a nice, busy couple of weeks for us, which is not going to get any less busy because obviously we're starting tonight. We're at the shorties, and then we're emceeing the summit tomorrow. So it feels like a very exciting time where everyone's getting their heads together. Tell me, I'm seeing you tomorrow at the shorties. What have Airbnb been nominated for?
Yeah, so Airbnb have been nominated for 2 awards this year. One is the Pioneer Award. So our chief economist and SVP of research, Jamie Lane, has been nominated for this. And then also for the most effective use of social media. Once again, Jamie and his wonderful team conducted a really, really neat study on the solar eclipse that happened in the US and sort of its impact on Airbnbs and prices and things like that. And it was really, really neat. So yeah, well, good luck to everyone. But what about you? What about Truby? What are you guys nominated for?
Just let me say this on that campaign, on the praising of Jamie. He is a pioneer, isn't he? Love Jamie. I watched or listened to the GMH episode on the solar eclipse. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, he would have my vote. We are nominated for best marketing campaign, best sales marketing campaign for the Truby rebrand. And rather ironically, I'm wearing my retro Super Hog jumper today, so I'm letting the marketing team down. I'm undoing all of their good rebrand work. So let's hope no one's watching, or I'll get my wing for that. Yeah. So that took a year. You know, like from conception to delivery. And obviously they worked very, very hard on it. So we're delighted that our marketing team got the nod for that. Fingers crossed. I think I'm the only Truvian or Truvanaut. I think I'm the only one in the room tonight. Because most of our team and most of the marketing team are in Barcelona. So I'm the only one in the room tonight. But yeah, really looking forward to it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have a pact with Jamie. I get to collect his award if he wins something. So I'm rooting for you, Jamie.
All right, gang. Well, look, here we are. So Sarah, you'll be flying. We'll be assuming you're flying, not taking the train. I know you.
I will not be taking the train. I hate to disappoint all of our listeners, but I will be on a flight. So I can see you later tonight. It's going to be amazing.
I got to tell you, when you land in good old Blighty, as we call it, the UK, you will not be asked to give your fingerprints or have a photo taken. But that's what's coming. So it's been announced that there is EU, UK entrance and exit requirements coming. And I just want everybody to kind of just be aware, because more than most people, you and I really hate when something's inefficient and slows us down. Like, you know, this is not our style, is it? So no. This is why I read over the weekend and I thought, God, we have to quickly make a feature on this. So it's going to become law from probably October of this year. So probably because everything still needs to be finalized, that when you enter the Schengen area, the European Union, effectively the free movement area, you will have to give your fingerprints and you will have to go through a photo scan machine, at least on the first time, and then you may have to top up at different points, or continue to go through and give your fingerprint in these machines. Expect queues. How do we feel about this, Sarah? How do we feel about this red tape?
Awful. I mean, You would think with all of this AI and all of this new technology, they would have something that worked better. Also, one of the things that I love about going to the UK is customs is so easy. I have an American passport, and so I stick it through a machine, and it takes 2 seconds, and the doors open, and off I go. Sure. It seems that everyone communicates. Has worked beautifully. They know if I'm a criminal, which I'm not, thank goodness. And they let me in, shockingly, you know? So it's always been super, super easy. When I come back to Spain, it's normally awful because you do have to wait in lines. And depending on who I go to, some of them are happy to receive me in the European line as a resident. And every now and again, I do that and I get told off. So you never really know if you're going to get a nice customs officer or not. The law says that because I'm a Spanish resident, I can go through the European citizens line when I'm coming home to Spain. So if I was going to France or somewhere else, no. But here, as I'm a permanent resident, then I can go through the European line. But some of the officers don't always know that, so I have it prepared on my phone so I can fight with them. Yes.
Well, fortunately, it's not with me that has such a hard time getting in and out of Europe. Good. I'm glad to know you have problems too. And being an American in the UK, we love you guys. So we try and make it as easy for you to come in as possible. I think you even can walk down the same line as us, which does imply we're in some ways the 51st state. Let's not get political, but I think we are very kind to Americans when they land here. All right, well, that was just a quick one from me. Housekeeping, I think this is exciting as well. The SDAA, we had Andy on last week, CEO of SDAA, the Association for the UK, has a new chair, Graham Donahue. As vice chair, I obviously know Graham really well. He's a total data geek for the industry. So awesome. The type of person we need in this chair, like fixated on making sure we have our numbers in the right place when policies are being created to try and back up views that we hold and test hypotheses that we have about the industry. So he'll obviously be playing a prominent role in the conference summit tomorrow. But I think it's cool. I think it's really good news for the industry. Have you met Graham?
I've never met him in person. No, I'm excited. I'm excited to meet him.
Tomorrow, my friend. Great. And then I've got a couple of quick SDR highlights. You can tell we didn't record last week. I've got so much. I'm hot with news.
I love it. Hit me.
Yeah. So I'm going to say OlaCamp because I think that's how you pronounce it in Spanish. I would say HoloCamp, but I think I would be told off for that. Look at the grimace from Sarah. It's like, don't do it.
No, please no.
I was right, but good. So OlaCamp has raised 10 million euros in the funding round. I don't know if you saw this one. The reason why I'm referencing it, because obviously we have our outdoor crew who would most likely go into this in more detail, is I think this proved potentially one of the hypotheses that we were discussing around what will happen in overly, heavily, aggressively regulated areas in Europe. We have said outdoor hospitality might just be the solution that rose in alongside people taking more cruise ships and different things that are also not great for ecological reasons. When this news broke, I thought this is reasonably interesting, and I went on their website and I was struck. They're a Spanish company. I was struck by how many, what can I call them, RVs? Some were kind of container ships, some were bell tents, yurts, were in and around Barcelona. So it seems to me like this company is doing incredibly well off the back of the fact that standard accommodation, short-term rentals are at the moment allowed, but they're going to be banned. What's popping up here is this micro industry around, well, this isn't the traditional dwelling, or we've taken over a field and we've put glamping huts in here, etc. So actually really worth a look. And I'm sure the data is going to come through later in the summer, probably September time, Sarah, I'd imagine, where we see what the impact has actually been. But that's definitely a website to look at.
I'm really excited about this. I think that it could solve a lot of the negative stereotypes, I guess, that are surrounding short-term rentals in a lot of the major cities. I think particularly in a city like Barcelona, maybe in other places it's trickier, but in Barcelona, you can be in the mountains in 20 minutes from the city center. From Plaza Catalunya, you can get on a train, and there's Las Planas, there's La Floresta, there's Baidores, there's all these places that are up in the middle of the mountains, where absolutely, as you say, like people do own plots of land. And whether they're houses out there or whether they're some kind of alternative, what I would truly consider alternative accommodation, which is like a tent or something a little bit more on the glamping side, I think it's really cool. It gives people easy access in and out of the city without overcrowding it, and creates less of a perception of it having anything to do with housing, and adding to the housing crisis. I think it's still up for debate whether it's actually doing that, but the perception is there nonetheless amongst the locals. So I think it could be really cool.
Well, it doesn't stop the fact, right, that more and more tourists are going to come from China, from India, like people who want to come to Europe. Like it's a playground for people, or has been for US citizens for years, right? It's the place you want to come on
Mm.
holiday. It's got all this tradition and history, and Barcelona is just a stunner of a place, obviously. And everyone discovered it after the Olympics. So that's
Mm.
why they if this is a way of bringing more people in and spreading out where they're staying, then let's do it. I'm all for it. And what it will bring into those regions around, and those campgrounds, the shops and the cafes and the restaurants near it is revenue, well needed revenue. And Europe doesn't want to turn down its tourists. It just has to make sure that the pinch points, like Las Ramblas, go on, pronounce it properly.
Mm. Las
That was
Ramblas.
it.
Yeah, well
There you
done.
go. That's
Oh,
around. That's it is tolerable in some months. Okay, great, good. Well, look, how we feel about that as a pod. We're always talking about over tourism and solutions for it. So we'll keep that going into the summer. We can't not talk about AI because here it is. It's relevant. It's relevant again. Google Gemini. So Google have updated some of their travel tools, giving more AI features to them. I think the first thing to say about this, and I'm sure, Sarah, you'll have views on this because it's focused on making trip planning easier. And I still want to
mm.
have face-off between Sarah Nandapree and the AI chatbot agent to see who wins. But
I'm
interestingly,
gonna win, Leo. How dare you even question it? I'm gonna win.
so what's interesting is ChatGPT have Operator, which is which you pay for. You pay to use. Google have brought out these tools for free, seemingly. So they're Gemini's gems. The one that caught my eye the most was users can give Google Maps access to their photos to allow the app to automatically identify places mentioned in screenshots. So when you're kind of doing the rounds and looking for, I'll take a picture of this, that, and they can add them to a list and plot them on your map for you. So it's all really, really cool stuff. What I like about what Gemini is doing here is maybe taking how we have traditionally used maps in the past. So when you go somewhere, you're putting flags and going, we want to try this bakery, we want to try this restaurant, but just putting the AI through it to make it more intelligent. What do you think about this one, buddy?
I think it could be really, really cool, but I don't understand how it's helping them comply with the DMA at all. I think it's putting them at more and more risk of that. So that was the first, classic healthy dose of cynicism from Sarah Dupree. But that was the first thing that came to mind when I was reading this, was like, this is so cool, but it just makes Google more powerful. And so I don't know what's going to happen with the DMA. Honestly, I sometimes have a half a mind to think that all of these companies are just going to say, okay, we'll pay the 10% fine, because it's basically like the fine for all of these things can be up to 10% of their turnover annually. And I think they're probably just going to pay it. I would, if I'm Google, the value that they're going to get out of doing something like this and basically paying a 10% tax for having the pleasure of being top of mind for everything we do, that's a no-brainer. So I don't think they're going to be necessarily in compliance. I think they're going to continue to have issues, but I think if I'm Google, I'm willing to pay the 10% tip to have the pleasure of being able to do that. If it works, it'd be amazing. I know, honestly, I wish they would do it with Google Maps as well. I don't know if we've talked about this, and I'm on a soapbox about it since it happened, but you used to just type something into Google and it would take you to Google Maps. Now you have to open the maps. You can't click into it. It'll show you this photo of where it would be on the map, but you can't click in. And this is all part of the DMA, right?
Yeah.
In Europe. It makes the user experience worse. So I am all for it. I probably am a little bit bullish on giving away my personal data. I have friends and family who are like, be careful, never accept all the terms, never accept whatever. I really think if people want your data, it's out there anyway. They're going to get their hands on it. And I think if it's used properly, it can really help us. Of course, there's always a dark side. And do we trust big companies? No. But if it makes my life easier, I personally am willing to give up a little bit of privacy in order to have someone plan my trip if it can outdo me. That remains to be seen.
I mean, that remains to be seen. Plus, you fundamentally don't believe it could. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Is it not as well that one of the reasons, and by the way, we'll go on to talk about Airbnb's ongoing now process when it relates to the DMO, because we'll feed into that naturally. The Digital Markets Digital Markets Act was established primarily to ensure an even playing field, right? And given gatekeeper status, there's an acknowledgement that you have a lot of power in the fact that consumers will start their buying journey in your environment. No one has more power than Google, clearly. Although I'd say that when it comes to travel, ChatGPT are catching up fast, which is why they brought out these new AI tools. And again, we have to remember this. Andy talked about it last time we were together doing the pod, about how that's where people's buying journey is starting. It's not someone saying, I want to visit, or it might not be, I'm saying I want to visit London. Or London's different, but and it's not saying I want to visit Barcelona. I'm saying I'm also starting with my ChatGPT hat on. And if they tell me that short-term rentals are banned, cool, I'm off somewhere else. So we have to be really, really aware of that as an industry. And so in evening up the playing fields, we've got to make sure that that's what the regulation's actually achieving. Because what you talked about there with Google Maps, it's making it harder to find the direct website or the contact or the phone number for the business that you are then trying to work with. So you are trying to visit. It's counterproductive completely, right?
It is. Yeah. No, 100%. I think it's once again rules that are made by government officials that don't really think about the implications.
Yeah. So we have this process that's been ongoing. We've got booking holdings that are already classified as a gatekeeper. We have Google now. Airbnb under investigation over EU gatekeeper status. I think we know which way it's going to go. That's well established. Sarah, tell us more about it. And to begin with, can I ask, you're a cynic, right? You're a healthy cynic, I think. What's the do you think this is a genuine attempt to try and even the playing field for smaller providers and create rules, or is it a tax grab?
I think part of it is a tax grab, and also I don't think it's going to work. I think the intention is, I think it's futile. Like it doesn't, you can try all you want to limit Airbnb. It doesn't mean I'm going to go book on some unknown portal that doesn't have the marketing resources that Airbnb has. I'm not going to do that. So, if the goal is to even the playing field, it's never going to be an even playing field. That's a ridiculous premise. It's a ridiculous premise. I think it's really nice, but it's very pie in the sky. A happy flower, kumbaya. It doesn't exist. You're not going to go to some teeny tiny OTA unless you happen to find them on Google, for example. But if you can't find them on Google, then how are you going to find them? I don't know. For me, it's like this vicious circle of, I think the intention behind it sounds nice, but it doesn't make any sense, and it's not going to fix the problem. So there's my cynicism about the whole thing. Like, it's a nice try, but the only thing they're going to get out of it is money. So if they're doing it for money, great, but they're not doing it to help us as consumers. That's for damn sure. That's for sure.
Yeah. Let's say it. You pull back. Your mum might listen, right? That was
yeah, I could hear my mom going, sorry, Kelsey.
Yeah. And we have the idea, I think, that what people really want to see is, as a host, let's get our host hat on here. What people really want to see is walls being knocked down to make it easier for them to take bookings across a range of platforms. So in one respect, this does create a challenge for Airbnb, because one of the items here on the docket when it comes to the Digital Markets Act is the sharing of data, and sharing it with, maybe you're using a third-party vendor to plug in part of your check-in journey. Airbnb are obviously quite keen to create walls wherever they can. Do we think it will have any impact on this, or will Airbnb just find a way to circumvent it? Or, as you say, it's probably worth just paying the fine, isn't it, rather than sharing
If
that.
I'm
Well,
Airbnb, yeah, if I'm Airbnb, I don't care. Here's the fine. Take it. Leave me alone. I mean,
yeah,
why are they going to go? Like, it will cost them more to come into compliance, and it doesn't help anyone. If I'm them, I'm paying the fine and moving on with life. I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
but you know, it's good American mentality on how business works. Okay, here's the money. Leave me alone.
Yeah, let's
Mm,
go. Let's go. Yeah, I guess for me, I would add there that I think that um, the OTA, the established OTA landscape is under threat more than it's been in the last
mm,
8 to 10 years. It's
mm.
under threat hugely because of AI. So if you're in the Airbnb compliance team, you might just feel like this is another blow, right? And there is
Mm.
probably someone thinking we do need to find ways to comply with this, and maybe they've just made it. Maybe they have just made it harder. Who knows? It's definitely one to watch. I think now all these big travel brands are being pulled into it. For a while, it was just booking; it wasn't Airbnb. I guess it evens the playing field again. I still think it won't have the impact that people would like it to have.
Oh,
But I think it's way more significant what would happen to that it's happening to Google than it's happening to Airbnb. I think because that's more of
100%.
our usage of how we start searching. Interestingly, I wonder if um, this will be another reason that makes Airbnb accelerate the experiences
Mhm.
part of the app, so that they are seen as not just providing accommodation and being the kind of the leader in accommodation. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that might be something for them to really plantify in Europe and try and grow in that environment. There's also one of the key components here is self-preferencing. Now, Airbnb obviously don't own any inventory, but they definitely preference based on, you tell me, Sarah, but certainly score, probably how much availability you're giving, which allows you, which means that if you're more locked into the platform, you're going to get preference.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
this will also stop that if again if they were to be compliant with the rulings, and that I think is potentially one of the areas that our hosts win, because it means you can, or I think another one that where they ask you to take the strictest cancellation policy, things of that nature. So if there's any impact there, I think that could actually be significant.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But again, it only will be significant if it works. So I think Airbnb probably will choose the low hanging fruit that's the most visible. Okay, we're going to say we're not going to prioritize based on, your cancellation policy, but prove that they're doing that. Prove it. I mean, ultimately, the burden of proof is on the European Commission to say, okay, you're doing something naughty. Where's the proof? How do you prove something like that? Unless you're like deep into the code. I don't know. I'm very cynical about this. I think it's all like we have a phrase in Spanish, like hacer el periple, which is like, okay, it's lipstick on a pig. You're gonna put forward what is gonna have the biggest impact in the news, so it looks like you're complying, but there's no way for them to control that on the back end. There's no way.
Yeah, Sarah, maybe your cynicism is rubbing off on me, or maybe you're just right. Who knows? Hey, my
I
friend.
think the latter.
Um, Look, we're going to keep an eye on all this stuff coming into the summer. It's interesting. We are a couple of weeks away from Easter, so we know that our industry is going to be making press more regularly from now until probably September. And last year it wasn't necessarily for good reasons. Normally it was
Mm,
for sort of political reasons. So let's see. Okay, we had the news this week as well that 28 day plus business stay specialists, Homelike, have
mm,
ceased trading with immediate effect. So the German-based online platform for mid to long
mm,
stay accommodation has ceased operations with immediate effect. It had at its peak, 70,000 properties
yeah.
over across more than 450 cities, 7 European countries, and the US.
Mm,
I think we both are in the same boat with this one. I don't actually know a lot about Homelike and haven't met anybody from
mm,
Homelike. So slightly just reading the news as opposed to kind of having any inside scoop here. I would say 28 day business specialist. That's a tough market, right? That's a
it
really tough
is.
market. We've seen what's happened to Selena. We know digital nomadism is is prevalent, but we don't know for sure that they're we're booking on specific OTAs for it. I feel that like from when I speak to people that live all over the place, it's normally Airbnb is the company they speak about. In fact, you and the guys at Airbnb will have this data, but I think it's about 15 to 18% of Airbnb stays are
Right.
more than 28 nights. So they've kind of got that market cornered at the moment. And I think for me, it slightly chimes with bits and bobs I'm reading and listening to about how the way that business travel is changing. And
Yeah.
because of the use of video technology and remote work, the idea of being on a business trip for a longer period of time is potentially not happening as often. I've never been away for more than a week. You just don't need to. You travel to do your FaceTime stuff. You don't travel to like bed in an office and work with a team in operations for a month. Now, of course, there are exceptions to that, but Air DNA Hassel, and I doubt you have anyone traveling over between offices for a month, right? It's probably a week to 2 weeks, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, it typically is. And I was thinking maybe at a larger company, it would make sense. So, for example, the company would rent out maybe a midterm flat and they would have that almost all year round. And then they
Yeah.
can rotate in and out people who might be coming to visit that office. But I mean, in a company of like 200 people, it's rare. And when they do come all at once, usually, so it's like, oh, we're having this group come over, and there might be 5 people here. But yeah, they're here for a week. They're not. There's no need really for that kind of longer stay. Yeah, I think it's quite a niche market, and especially limiting it then further to business travel. So, 28 plus day stays, sure, there's absolutely a market for that in most major European cities. Um, but I would also agree, like, I don't think you're going to go to a specific OTA for that. You're going to go to Airbnb, or you're going to go to whatever the local property portal is in the country where that's taking place. So usually it's like the locals or the people who have traveled there before will use the local property portal, and other people are going to use Airbnb. And that also gives you more security. You know that if something goes wrong, Airbnb is going to respond for it. Um, and and you know that the money that you're sending is in some kind of safe deposit, and it's not just sending it to a company you've never heard of, which, especially if you're traveling overseas, can be it can feel sketchy. And from a business perspective, you want to make sure that it's a reputable company that you're sending your money to. So I think they had a tough go of it. I'm really curious now actually to do a bit more research into kind of their overall business model, and maybe more information will come out as well. In the filings for their cease of operations. But I'm very curious as to kind of what was the straw that broke the camel's back and what was the buildup. Because I think with some of the companies in our industry, obviously, we look at the Casa or something like that, and we see kind of that build up and where it was going. But with this, I'm curious to see what were the different building blocks there.
Yeah, I agree. And again, yeah, it's important to say we don't have the inside scoop. So we know they have competitors. We know that there's the 28-day plus market is definitely alive. Well, as
Mm,
you've just said as well, especially in urban areas, the companies often take over apartments. We had one for a while in Barcelona. It's something that people do. When I speak to property managers, very often, that if they have someone that wants to come and stay, that's much easier to do that deal directly, because you
right.
have someone from the HR department booking it, or it's a repeat booking. So you kind of win that account, and then you take them off platform quite easily in
Mm,
the property management space, which I think is also interesting, because 28 days, you get booking once, really, you've got a long time to impress them, right? We talk about
mm,
hospitality, about how can you turn someone who's thinking they're staying, and then they insert the OTA's name. So I'm staying with insert OTA's name, to I'm staying with Leo Walter Properties. The
mm,
way, 28 days gives you a really good amount of time to impress them with your level of service and
mm,
building those connections. And most property managers are savvy enough to kind of win that. So yeah, when I speak to people, certainly in the UK market, they'll tell you that they use the OTAs more for the shorter bookings, whereas when it goes repeat and corporate and more work focused, you end up being known to the businesses in your area that are sending people over, and you're able to win those deals. I might have said this on the pod before, but it's the good old fashioned as well. I was chatting to shout out to then Duncan, who at the time was at Host and Stay, who was saying, they would do the old just look at they would drive to the hotels and look at what the vans the logos on the vans were in the car parks. And then they'd call all those businesses the next week and make sure that they said, look, we've got a great sample of accommodation. Why would you stay in a hotel when you can stay with us? So, we know that our hosts around Europe and the UK are pretty savvy at that something. So perhaps that's contributed here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if you do end up having a stay that is longer, then sure, yeah, maybe you can kind of capture that guest, and you can have them be more loyal, I guess, to your brand. But I think it would also depend on how often they're staying in that location and what the supply looks like, because maybe it makes sense if you have an office in Barcelona. But when I think of other use cases for like the 28-day stays, it's usually students, digital nomads. Maybe it's a family who, the kids are out for the summer and they can come for 2 months and experience something new. But I think, yeah, the limitation of having it be on top of that only corporate travel, I think was extremely niche.
Yeah, I also think potentially, this is a wider point. We probably haven't got time to talk about this, but I do think that the quite tough political environment around staying in short-term rentals that exists within Europe, and is even further compounded with the fact that with the UK, we're not part of the European Union anymore. So you probably potentially soon will need a visa to spend more than 90 days outside of the UK in Europe. It's enough to put people off becoming digital nomads. So you don't think it's as easy as, I can pitch up in Barcelona for 28 days. So there is challenges to that market in general about even becoming a nomad. And we have companies starting to try and mandate more office use. I don't think they're necessarily winning that battle, but it is causing certainly ripples in that industry. So yeah, I'm not 100% surprised to hear this news without sort of knowing the inner workings of what's going on. Sarah, we're at time.
We
So
are.
exciting.
I've got a flight to catch, buddy. I'm going to see you tonight. I can't wait.
Come on. What are you what are you planning here? Like, what are you going full ball gown? How dressed up do I need to be? Because I assume we're sitting next to each other, aren't we?
I hope so.
Yeah.
It'll only be our second time actually seeing each other in person, Leo. We need to catch up. We need the time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going full ball gown. I'm not really a big ball gown kind of gal. I need to look at the weather though. I'm so terrible. I've like barely even packed. So after this,
How
I'm
about you?
packing and going to
How
the
about you,
airport.
buddy? How about you? So I'll say this because again, British people love to talk about the weather, so I'm unashamedly going to do it. It is blue skies and beautiful here in London. It's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, obviously you need a jacket. You always need a jacket, but it's beautiful. Look, gang, we've got an exciting week coming up. Our next episode will be a pre-record from the summit, where we'll be obviously emceeing during the day, but we'll be reflecting at the end of the day on what we've seen and what we've heard, and hopefully getting some people to join us as well to talk about things through the day. If you've enjoyed today's show, please hit like, share, subscribe at all the usual social places. We'll see you again next week. Many thanks.